I've seen water going on.
Yeah, I think we are one. I guess because of the view that I have going, but
All right. It is 4:31. We'll call a meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the April 17th, 2025 regular meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
All right, Bill has a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Steve on the second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, by like sign. Motion carries. Looking at our financial reports. Let's go to the Water 3 budget tracking report. You'll notice that the current year-to-date balance of operating revenue for the water is $1,490,000 rounded off against a budget of $1,583,000. Miss Glenda's been doing some research on that, the reason why that is down a little bit. And I think the conclusion is, and Glenda, correct me if I'm wrong, was that when we looked at the previous year's revenue, that there was 2 or 3 months in there that couple of our customers had some excess revenue that we were not, or more water consumption is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Than what we anticipated, and now they've been more back to normal flow during this year, which has caused us to be behind on what we estimated the revenue to be for this year in our budget. We're
I
still
do think
doing.
it's going to come in close to our budget number if we don't hit
It's
it.
picking up a little bit.
It has.
Yep.
Mhm.
But our tap fees have been a little bit more than what we budgeted. Interest, and we now have our hydrant fees that we get every year. And of course, we had that one grant that is not really it is a part of our budgeting, but it's not. We don't consider that because we don't know when we're going to get a grant as we in our operations. So we're running $1,811,000 less that 217 is about $1,600,000, and where our budgeted is $1,653,000. So we're not too far off of budget revenue. So our everything is pretty much on track, except we are having our system repairs are a lot more than what we anticipated, but we're getting some long-term improvements out of those repairs that we have. So we feel like that's money well spent, even though it is more than.
Can we go back to expenses there? It's third item, 0110. Hourly employees were like 100,000 less than what we budgeted. Anybody comment on that?
It's I'll let Bobby comment on it, but I think it's mainly Bill. It's where we've made changes where Tim left, brought Bobby in, then we were short some people
Right.
during that period of
during that
time,
period.
but we're now full
We're
staff,
capacity
we
now.
think.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
just bringing them on. So But everything else on the water seems to be expense wise, seems to be tracking what we thought it would at the budget time. Under sewer budget tracking, it's revenue is tracking a little bit better than what we had projected. It's 655 against 625. And similar to water, the repairs and maintenance are a little higher than what we had budgeted them to be. But everything else is running slightly below what we budgeted. So we're at total expenses 826 against 926. So we budgeted a significant loss, but right now we're currently only at 95,000. I don't know, this probably does not include the Herman Gordon, any expenses for the Herman Gordon lift station. So that'll,
One other question on penalties. We budgeted both for water and sewer, an amount that's double. And there it's like, we budgeted 8,000, it's 20,000 we're taking in on penalties. 13,000 taking in. Is that, we changed some policy there. Did that cause us to generate revenue there? And are those policies, Glenda, are you having any less? Looks like we're having more people disconnect.
With the penalties, there's just no way to judge that, really.
Well, penalties are also what they're paying late.
Uh-huh.
late
That's
fees.
just penalty, yeah.
So it could be an economy thing.
We don't,
I don't know. Unless somebody gets in and really studies that one, we're not gonna know for sure, but
Yep.
just an interesting that those numbers have doubled. And they're not huge numbers, I know, but
Right.
they're
Right.
bigger than we thought.
Yeah.
Is that more work for you guys? I
Well,
mean, are people disconnecting and then you haven't go reconnect and stuff?
yes and no, because I mean, the penalty goes on, after the 10th. So they
Yes.
may come in, they've got
Okay.
a couple of weeks there to pay it before cutoff. So they
Oh,
could pay it,
and that's what's
but they're
happening a
still
lot.
gonna have to pay that penalty.
Okay. So that's happening a lot. People are deferring.
So they don't necessarily get cut off, but they are having to pay the penalty.
Yep.
on the trial balance report, April balance, cash is 1,443,000 against a year ago at 1,624,000. So we're still pretty solid in the cash in the account. Glenda gave us another sheet this time that I'll let her speak to, but has to do with the loan payments that we make that are due.
I like to give you this when I get it. We pay these loan payments every 6 months. And so this time I always put over here what they're for. But and I put over to the left the rate of what we're paying. And then down at the bottom, I thought, well, I'm going to put, when we'll have them paid off, just so you kind of have that in the back of your mind, or you've got it in front of you if you ever want to look. So, and then over there on the far right, it says balance after this payment. So that's what we'll have. That's what we'll still owe. Of course, I can't estimate the one for the wastewater treatment plant because we don't start making payments until 6 months after completion. So right now we are still just paying the interest and fees on that one. And that is a 20-year loan. So when it does start, we'll have 20 years.
To get it done. So in that total payment column, does that represent 6 months?
Yes,
Okay. So
Yes.
we get a sense, so we could take the 68,000 divided by 6 to get a sense of what we're paying per month for loans.
that would be correct.
All right, it's like 11,000.
Mhm. And that's
A little more.
principal, interest and fees. Mhm. Of course, that's going to jump up considerably when we start paying on the.
Start paying on the big
Yeah.
loan.
Right.
Which will be the wastewater treatment plant will be sewer. So
Okay.
I just like to give you that.
Tell me about the 3 million one.
That's the wastewater treatment.
So that's a loan from Kentucky.
Yes, KI. And I think there's still, I don't think there's 25,000 more that we will receive.
Out of that, okay.
Yes, because
So have we spent all that, you're saying? That's what
that will be all of it then.
Did we have kind of an open checkbook with them just to pay for it until we got to the point it's
We
over?
did, Chad left it that way,
Yeah.
so that if we needed to do more draws, we could. We
Yeah.
didn't do any for a while, but then
Yeah,
now we did have to take the rest of it.
and how many years is that?
It's
When
a
did that
20
start?
year.
No, our work on the
Oh, man.
wastewater treatment plant, when did we start that?
When did we?
I
start?
should know.
It has been at least, I think, 5.
Something.
It's been a while.
That leaves out the legal fees for other issues, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the overall status of potential reimbursement.
Mhm.
There were disbursements to the original contract,
Mhm.
and then we got some funds back from the bond. And there's still things to be discussed,
Well, good.
still damages to be
Yep.
discussed, things going on. So I anticipate. Portion of the funds that will be cash flow after. Yeah, on the agenda.
Mhm.
Okay.
Time to go and do that right now.
let's do it right now. Gotta be done. Yeah.
So, great progress has been made. There's kind of stymied with some project details, and we're trying to unjam those, but, we want to put that new structure in service by the end of next month. And at this point in time, it's still doable. It's gonna have to be a highly focused effort. And the project is, got a little sidetracked the last 2 weeks. We're trying to get back on the rest right now.
We had asked for an extension of the great order to April, and then we pushed that to June 30 because of the monsoon and the rain. And like Gene said, we're still got some things that we got to do, and focus hadn't been quite as sharp as we'd like to see it.
Now, this all came out of, we've had some readings, right, that tripped up regulations on certain kind of chemicals or
No,
what?
it
Certain
was
kind of,
mainly started with the overflows and rains in the sewer system
okay,
that were flooding into people's yards.
okay,
And the system would not take the flow in a heavy rain fast enough into the treatment plant.
okay,
So we are improving the treatment plant. We've gone through and improved a lot of the manholes. We've done the research with individuals' houses who have drain water pipes going into the sewers and whatnot, trying to cut back on the volume of water flow into that. And I think that has been pretty much under control now for a while. We have not had maybe one or two. I think they used to say Sprout Davis's yard didn't get any, or somebody's yard didn't get any backup, but
We've had some during that big storm,
Yeah.
big storms.
so
but in general, things now seem to run much. We've got the big reservoir on Cherry and Sixth, right? That holds water.
Oh, Cedar, no, you're talking about, Cedar.
Is it Cedar? Yeah, excuse me, street down, Cedar and Sixth and that space, is that a part of it?
that's not
That's
part
not
of
part
it.
of the
No.
sewer system.
That's what,
That was
This is
just
the storm water
mm,
that comes through,
storm water there.
but that is safe. Stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was the agreed order came because we were having these issues with flooding related to sewers?
Well, a lot of I and I.
A lot of I and I, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Had some leaks into the sewer system,
yeah, infiltration.
Yes.
causing sewer system to flow
What's
out
the other eye?
places it's not supposed to be.
What's the other eye? Infiltration.
Inflow.
Inflow,
And there's been a lot of work and it's gonna continue to be some work.
right.
There's a few things, it's gonna be a never ending ongoing effort. But the new headwork structure is really the last piece of that. Yes, to really be in compliance, and I don't know the details of that, that predates my time as the mayor. All the details, but when we start out the new headworks structure, then it started, that's gonna be with full compliance with the state and everything,
Okay,
the last piece of the puzzle.
so it really was just an issue of our sewer system wasn't holding the water, it was coming in, or we had these other issues that kept it from working the way it should. And that's what we're trying to address.
And we have put in some screening and all to clean out some of the things that are being flushed, caught before it goes into the lagoons.
Yeah.
Which will improve the chemical complex in the lagoons.
Right.
And maintain that for a while, so that'll be a part of it. Mainly what the big concrete structure is out there is the water will flow in. It overflow, it will fill up that big concrete structure,
Okay,
and then it'll drain out,
nice.
as opposed to just backing up in the sewer, getting somewhere to go.
Got it.
Pumps can't keep up. So,
How big is this concrete structure? Or how many gallons?
It's designed to be like 6.8 million gallon a day,
Really?
a whole lot bigger than what we got.
Oh, yeah,
So, it'll hold it.
Good.
And we shouldn't have any more issues up there by Sprout's house.
right.
I see Sprout at the gym. I asked him recently, he didn't have any issues.
Yeah.
You know, it was good to hear.
But to that, when we was talking about the I, that's when we did all the smokes testing and stuff like that. That's going along pretty well too, because I've already spoke, we had, I think we sent out 38 letters to some violations and stuff.
Yes,
And I've already spoken to like 18 of them.
good.
And it's going along pretty well. I've already got some people that's already fixed stuff. So that's going well too.
All right. Any other items? Okay, moving on to the project update, Long Valley Road project is, moving along, pretty well. It's just a slight snag in that the contractor needed to, had committed to another project in Murray, and they've been off on that for a week. They should be coming back. Everything has now been cleaned up so that all we need to do is to finish and tie into the main. We're coming down over there by around the corner by before we go to I-24. Is that where we are? Is the line completed down Long Valley Road, but it comes
Oh.
where
It's
did
completed.
Chad say?
It's right now, it's down where Paris Road and Long Valley meet. That's roughly where we're in right now.
Okay,
And it's all the way up to Little Rock where it starts.
yeah,
So they're right there now. But they've already started, they did some potholes and stuff down going towards 62, but there's no pipeline.
right, okay. So we're just about ready to get that wrapped up, and get everybody tied in
Mhm.
to the system, and you've heard from,
I've spoken to like 4 or 5 people about where they want it. That's going to go. The other ones are just, if they don't tell us, but they're just going to get a meter set somewhere.
yeah, what we've done is, as part of that, we put a meter set at every spot that could potentially have water, whether there's a house there or not a house there.
Right.
And so we talked a little bit today about it, Gene and Bobby and I, and we need to think of some way maybe to encourage these people to tap on, because they can tap on without paying the large tap on fee. Now, all they would have to pay, correct me if I'm wrong, Linda's $150
$150.
deposit. And then they could, of course, they would have to run water from there to their house, but we need to some way encourage those people to go ahead and get tied on.
There'll never be a better time for them to do it than now. I
right.
can't imagine, but I wouldn't want to say potable water, not other than a well that's always empty.
So
Plus, the power goes off at their house, they don't have well water. And have a pump hooked up, or you don't lose city water. And I storm that pretty much.
Yeah, I know, I do. I agree with you. Well, they are.
so you got any ideas on how we could promote that?
Are they even aware of it right now?
I would think most of them are, because they've been digging a line right in front of their house.
I mean, have they been given a letter or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
for this?
Yeah.
It's not just word of mouth. They
No,
actually have.
we've sent out that.
Okay.
Send another, and then I call them.
So the 5 that have gotten back to you, there's 20 some odd on this Long Valley extension.
Well, I think that's counting the ones on there.
Oh, okay.
Cause I talked to one of those, so that's.
But to make it clear, that the tie-in points are going to be provided on Highway 95. That's already planned, it's in the expenditure. So the water line's been there for quite a number of years.
Mhm.
I don't know how long. But instead of people having to go in and do the tie-in, we're providing those tie-in points to their property. But they've got to sign up to be customers, as Dan was saying.
And do you have a timeline on that? Is that offer good? You know, if you put a deadline on it,
Well,
that might be a way to
There's a
advertise it,
project out.
to get it for just $150 deposit versus what's the number? Diane,
I think if they understood
that,
the advantages of it, the better water quality, the consistency, the reduced cost, et cetera.
Yeah.
Long term, it's definitely more cost effective than maintaining the well and everything that goes with that.
So people who've already invested in infrastructure for wells, for pressure tanks, for all that. There's probably gonna be some hesitancy to, they need to realize full investment. But that doesn't mean that your well goes away, and you got a water
It
tie-in,
works your card so
But-
well.
but we gotta make sure that we don't have cross connection.
Right, that's exactly.
That's part
So you
of
get
the
it back.
license. That's part of the requirement for licensed plumber, to ensure there's no cross connection.
is Gil Hall still doing his little talk show in Calvert?
Do I?
This Gil Hall, remember he had a little thing on WCCK?
Yeah. I ain't been on it in a while.
This might be a good one to be on there with him on.
I think we've
You probably
actually
have some other-
we've had that topic once in the past, and I've talked about this already.
Okay.
We can do it again.
When you say 95, Mayor, where's that? That confuses me, 95.
Highway 95.
So I know we've got a line down
Drive
there,
in.
so that was how we're gonna feed that from that line, the 95 line.
No, there's a line there that goes
Right.
to the drive-in
Yes.
from 62 to 95.
Yeah.
And so I don't know the total number of customers, but not many.
Not many.
So we're going through, and with these grant funds, we are gonna have the work from one end to the other done, and we're gonna tie on
That's
to the
great.
water line.
You got a church
available
out there
to-
too.
Available to properties.
Yeah, and they're having to test the water unless the regs change, and they'll have to.
I don't know that the churches are they, well.
They're not, they're not on us. Now, there are 3 out there on it. I said,
Yeah,
right?
so drive in.
The drive in and 2
Yeah.
other houses, not 3 other houses.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But we're working to get on that, so.
the church one time was fed with a deep well, but you had to test the water. You had to comply
Mhm.
and treat it. We had a mini treatment plan there.
Wow.
I know, but I had to go past licensing
Yeah.
test, so. So I don't know what they're doing, have no clue what they're doing now, but if I were there, that's one thing I would sure want to take care of. And are we gonna add any, or do we have fire hydrants out there?
Yeah, there's one.
Okay, so if we add fire hydrants, then that affects your house insurance.
I mean, there's.
That is for the fire hydrants there now.
Mhm.
That line was put in, that's under Kevin, I think is under Kevin Murphy's
Hmm.
time here. It was Grant, he got some grant money, he sent the water line down there,
Mhm.
and the driving is very thankful.
Yeah. Good
And
too.
you got more pressure up on Long Valley Road now, right?
When we get- when
4 or
we-
5 hydrants, when we get it all.
When we get the
hooked
tie-in done, there are existing hydrants that should be able to have better supply
We,
volume.
we talked about Hurley Road, but we're gonna do 95.
Well, that's kind of the next topic I think we're going to.
Okay.
Highway 95 is already done. And the tie-in cost, that each property was added to this one. The grant monies that we have are pointed toward providing water service to unserved houses. That's the purpose. So there's residual $200,000. And so the decision is next. What are we gonna utilize those funds for? And we clearly have within our reach several choices of water line extensions that will bring new customers, have the option. One of those options, are we ready to do this?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of those options would be down E.M. Hurley Road,
Mhm.
and there's a few houses down there,
Yeah, not many.
not many.
I
And
doubt
then
that
there's a
they'll-
couple other
Probably won't sign.
options that are up on the hill,
Mhm.
up in that subdivision area and off the backside of what's a recognized subdivision that would offer some potential, and the projects have not really been costed out, I don't think, on those different options. But what's the cost to benefit ratio and how can we help the most houses? The E.M. Hurley Road offers the advantage of building hydraulic a loop that would help down on Needmore. So
Mhm.
it would be a cross connect to Needmore Road,
Mhm.
and so any future development on Needmore would have better flow. But
So
right
is that
now,
duplex or housing thing out there off the
It's-
neighborhood, it's
it's
already got
on the
water?
water line.
We
So
got
what you-
water all the way up to E.M. Hurley on that one too.
Okay.
So
I
you'd
say
be,
up to it.
so
that
if
long.
you looked at the
Yeah.
map, it'd be taking that water line you just identified
Mhm.
and cross tying it. It's tied down Highway 62 now, correct? It would be coming off and having a second tie-in on E.M. Hurley, so it'd make you some redundancy there and then flow up through that whole area. And I haven't really got the model. I think Chad's got the model. I haven't really seen the
I haven't
results.
seen any.
But we have not, to my knowledge, we have not tagged flow considerations as being a problem on Needmore. But who knows what the future development might be. The other options are more or less a neighborhood water header going in. I don't know, they would include a fire hydrant or not. And I don't know how the households, but we need to, we've got some options. We got a finite amount of grant money left, and we gotta figure out what the best option would be. To maximize the value for the purpose of the grant.
That's right. Great.
So we'll be looking at that in more detail and bringing in front of this group, I think is probably the one. to do
Because you
it.
got, I mean, one of the other choices is up on, off of where we are now is Little Rock and Atlanta.
That's
And
true.
actually, you've had one person on Little Rock all the way to the
Very
end call
good.
and ask to tie on the water, but we're not going down there. Yeah,
Those are two distinct different projects, right? Are they the same?
Little Rock, Atlanta.
Is
I
that,
think there is,
would that be two?
I know Little Rock goes all the way back.
Mhm.
First time I heard Atlanta was,
Okay,
I don't know if that's a little branch or what,
okay.
but I do know Little Rock, pretty good little ways.
So we got a lot to do in scoping those two options out.
Where is Little Rock? I can't picture that right now.
You know where Lone Valley Road, you know where Michael Ford lived?
Yeah,
It's right across from his house.
oh, okay.
Is
see
Atlanta
the
down that
sign,
same
but I
area?
I'm guessing it is. I'd have to look. I don't remember it. I think it might be like a little short road, maybe.
Remind me where E.M. Hurley, I know that I've seen it.
That's
E.M.
off
Hurley's
95,
right there.
95 and
before you get to driving.
Right at the bottom of the hill when you
Got
come
it.
off
go past
62.
Cotter, Ready Mix,
Yeah.
Okay,
right there on the right.
I'll look. Next time we go.
And it tees all the way into me.
So they have water, right?
What's
in
that?
it, Right there off
Who
of
was-
62.
preacher
Company
First
Baptist
Baptist that went to California.
Businesses sitting in it.
It's
Like, big
right
gravel
over
pit.
95?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they
They
got,
wanted to go to
Concrete
Arizona or
company,
came from
they have
Arizona at that
Came
point.
from Arizona and went back to California.
well, I could see that.
So, at least I don't think
Where'd he
they-
live?
I think he
Also
lived on that
potable,
street.
you know.
So
But yeah, the others are-
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
you guys,
Yeah, he was down there off Long Valley, yeah.
to answer the question, Atlanta ties in Little Rock Lane.
Yeah, that's what I figured. There's a-
So they're up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't know what the total linear feet is, but we've got to scope those out in this
That's the
process.
lady right there. with the call.
Oh, really?
Right there, right there, green.
Uh,
The Church of Christ, they got city water, right? And then they're building something out there past that.
Yeah, down Laurel Lane, yeah, because Jeffrey Bailey called me about that one. He's planning on building some duplexes and stuff out there. And he was gonna try to hook onto water too, but his only option right now is to tie up there by the church.
Yeah,
And he'd have to run a long service line past some ponds.
yeah.
So maybe, I mean, that would be, I don't know. That would be an option too, I guess.
We don't have any way to get in there other than that.
Well, you got a
Yeah, I mean, unless you bore under 62.
penny on the motor shop.
Is he putting one down there too?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
so
mean, he's
that's
doing the
that.
dirt work. Yeah, I think it's where he's going.
I know, but then he's done something and then Jeffrey Bailey's doing something too.
Yeah.
So we got a couple
See,
hundred
dude,
thousand
he'd
dollars.
have to dig a well
Mhm.
Free
if he don't
money
do see, I mean,
Yeah.
so, you know,
to use.
That's
it'd
why
be a
Jeffrey-
no-brainer to
Jeffrey
me.
said he didn't want to have to dig wells for you.
Yeah, it would be a no-brainer for me, but I can't speak to how those people would decide.
Oh, okay.
But with that 200,000, it's gotta be used to provide water to people who don't have water. That was the whole crux of the grant, so.
You got lots of money. Just where the water lines run down that Laurel Lane area.
Yeah, we don't have one of those down Laurel Lane. But we got one around ours, there's a hydrant there by the church in Calvert. Right there. Then we go up 62.
Yeah.
And then you could bore on the 62, I guess, and send it straight. Or you could bring it down and then.
All right. Lagoon liner replacements, we're waiting until weather breaks on that. Hopefully June, July,
Yeah.
so that we can drain 2 of those lagoons. Bobby and them are planning and working on how they're gonna get that done. We've got 4 lagoons and that'll shut 2 down. We'll be operating on 2, but we've done that before. So. And don't think they'll be down very long to put the liner in once they clean the sludge out of them, so. Okay, let's intercede here, Gene, and if you want to talk about your email and your visit or.
Yeah, so there was a conversation was on the news recently. U of L had asked Bobby, about, Calvert, taking some wastewater samples from Calvert City wastewater in the, there's a new technology out there called, wastewater borne entomology, WBE. And they approached us to in a small community. They've been doing that in Louisville and wanted to expand and do testing. And provided some information, and they had a grant deadline of February the 3rd. And we'd asked around some of our fellow rural water area people and try to get a word on who's got some experience with this stuff. And really didn't get anything, didn't learn anything. And so I did not grant permission. They'd offered like $100 a week to take samples or whatever. And so we chose not to participate. Well, last week there was a community meeting in Grand Rivers that U of L was talking about. I don't remember exactly how the press release went, but I attended, and Bruce was there as well. And I learned that a U of L group the Center for Integrated Environmental Health Sciences was partnering with Murray State University. And that group from U of L has 66 faculty members spread around across 19 working centers, as best I understand what that means. And they are looking at citizens' concerns about cancer risk in our community at Calvert City. And actually, it kind of was a surprise to me. It wasn't a surprise to me. They had asked us for permission to sample wastewaters. And so that was one of several studies they were going to do. They were also going to do a human health study, take a look at the bird population, and do surveys of aquatic amphibians as an indicator of how the environment's doing. When they approached Calvert City Water, we didn't know that the study was part of a larger effort, and didn't know it was pointed at Calvert City specifically. It was presented to us as a baseline for the Jackson Purchase area. And we had just elected not to participate in that. And then winds out it's more looking specifically, the meeting was in Grand Rivers about Calvert City, which I found a little strange. So they are seeking grant funding to continue the survey. So we'll learn more about this as we move forward and be able to make some good decisions for the community and for accurate and unbiased information that's going to be in the best interest of our community. So there's more to come on that, but that's what the information was. There was some concern that no officials from Marshall were there, and nobody from McCracken was there. There were Livingston County officials, and from Market, I believe that they were first learning about the focus area from some of the questioning. But I wasn't invited to come, and I didn't have an RSVP, but I was there for a little bit, hour and a half, and I had a week of Bobby was there. I learned a lot that I didn't know the full context of the ask before. So naturally, well, why is Calvert City not participating? We are not participating. We really didn't not. One of the things is we've got a lot of trying to generate an extra revenue. So I'll be looking forward to it. Trying to be accomplished. That's why I'm
I think you did well.
I think the letter was well written.
Well, and we're going to do studies and what are the sampling plans? What are the blind samples? Who's the support laboratory to the base laboratory? So, a lot of times I think in the name of research in university, and I don't know what the capabilities are. I don't know they can duplicate their capability of another backup lab to project. I just don't know. But there's a lot to learn. And I think maybe it's a tendency for some research universities to say, hey, we're developing this as we go. Well, that's fine. But let's make sure that the study is scientifically grounded and well thought out and unbiased and all those sorts of things. So could be great, could be great. Looking forward to learning more in the context as we now know it, so.
Does Calvert City still have the chemical meeting, the chemical plant meeting once a month for citizens from Livingston and Marshall and?
The plans still sponsor, Citizens Advisory Team.
Hmm,
The plans still do that.
they might find this interesting too.
Well, there'd probably be some questions among sector. And that's where the plants, strive to have, reporting, the relationship with, the stakeholders in the community. These are, the school, Murray State too, I think, but Paducah Engineering, Livingston County Schools, Marshall County Schools, students, just regular citizens to have something of a routine reporting. So a group, but I forget how big the number is, 25 or 30, I think, in that, maybe larger. To have routine news and then faced with the plants, probably, I think it's like 9 months out of 12.
Mhm.
They don't meet in the summer.
Right. I think they used to, when I was in it, I did it about 3 years. The summer, they would try to have a walk through one of the chemical plants. The
Mhm.
different ones would rotate and invite the people living in it to come to
So we
the
still have
state.
the school representatives there, and they grant many grants, and they've shifted gears and they're providing some UK engineering grants too,
Okay,
scholarship.
wonderful.
So that's a group of stakeholders that are interested in the community as well. So
I was in a meeting this week with a group of older Calvert City people and had a little discussion on it because it was fresh on everybody's mind.
Right.
And over the years, progress of pollution, I guess is the right word, to now has come a long
oh yeah,
way.
As it should.
In Calvert City. And I think the plants are, personally think the plants are doing an excellent job of trying to control what goes on. And so, but anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. We gave you a copy at the city council meeting. The city council completed the 25-26 budgets. And as a part of that process, we the water and sewer budgets are integrated but separate and apart from the city, I guess is the best way to explain that. We keep our records totally separate, financials and expenditures and everything from the city, because well, one thing we found out with our study we had with the rural water, that's a good thing to do, is to keep it so you know what your cost is, what your revenue is for your water and your sewer, separate and apart from the city. And then if you want to supplement it with tax base, or the city wants to supplement it with tax based dollars, then they can do so. But we're giving you a copy of the water and sewer annual budget for the 25-26 year. Summary is on the top page there. We estimate the funds at the beginning of the year, which would be July 1st, to be $1 million. We're operational is $2,762. Capital grants, loans, and transfers, we're looking at another $2,083,000 for a total estimated revenue of $4,845,000. So with the $1 million at the beginning, total resources available $5,845,660. Then estimated expenditures, which we have copies of those for you on the back, would be $2,424,590. Depreciation of $565,000. Capital and debt retirement of $3,086,710 for a total of $6,076,300, leaving a excess of revenues over under expenditures of $1,230,640. Adding back the depreciation to that number leaves us a shortfall of $665,640, or leaves us a balance of funds in the bank of $334,000 at the end of the 26 year. So
Tell me about the, oh, I see it over there.
I mean, I left
Capital
the
and debt
notes on there
retirement.
so you can see.
I see it on the right there. That's,
Yeah.
that's the subtotals.
right.
Yeah,
We have included in that 2,083,000 there on the right also, the potential, grant for a berm of 650,000, a potential loan of 820,000 in order to do the LWD cutoff road, replacement of that main through there. VFWs and the controls, 63,800.
that's what Chad said would be left at the end of the year.
At the end of the year,
To
which
carry
comes out of
over.
that grant, yeah. Mhm. And then the 210,000 PB Cloud remaining funds is those funds that we were talking about that's on Long Valley Road.
Right.
We took the first remaining amount, did Long Valley Road. Now there's going to be 210,000 left of that money to do another road somewhere on that. New capital on water is 2,292,000 and 576,000 new capital on the sewer.
What does that mean? New capital water, 2,292,000. So what is that?
Great, straight out.
That's
Look over on
going
this
back.
page.
Got it. Okay. We're coming there, huh?
We're getting there.
Okay. No
Yeah.
problem.
So you got two
Yes.
funds, 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And 721. 7-Eleven. Do you see it?
7-Eleven, okay.
On
Next.
the bottom, there's
Gotcha.
a
Thank
list.
you.
One more.
Linda's helping.
I know, sorry about that. I should have done that. Show me.
Everybody found
see,
7-Eleven?
That's that number. and it's lost. So
Okay,
this
on the
is
corner
what
has
we
fresh
put
copy
as
all the
capital
time.
I
items.
don't think I have that copy. Right. I didn't get it.
I've got an extra one here, probably. Yeah, I've got one here.
You didn't get the
You didn't get a budget copy?
I did not.
Here.
This right here.
This
I
one,
mean, I
Yeah.
don't care. You can have this one. if you didn't get
Okay, all right, thank you.
it.
Sorry about that. I thought I put one at every place.
Well, I don't say you
Anyway,
didn't. I'm just looking.
So 7-Eleven, this is where we're doing capital expenditures on.
On water.
For the different things that we've got going on. So, the filter media is in there at $80,000. VFDs and controls, we're gonna spend some more next year and complete it, that's budgeted for next year. And then looking at getting a, side-by-side type vehicle to help read meters and do miscellaneous errands. The $25,000 of maintenance activity on the ground storage tank.
We just left that in there
We
because
put that in there because at some point we need to go in and repair that ladder. It's
Okay.
So whether
inside
that
and
will
all,
happen
but we
this year,
can't do
but-
that until Bobby can.
supposed to be able to, we need to get we need to get this done. Before we can.
So that may or may not get done
Right.
this year again, but we put it in there
We
in
did
case
leave
we
it in
need
there.
to.
Then the well rehab,
That's what's always.
it's a standard cost, annual maintenance.
Right, because we had decided to keep that in there as a
Yeah,
rotation.
we have a contract with
With Lanes.
Lanes to look at a well each year. And we decided to rotate it one per year so that we're always keeping the wells on upgrade.
So on the land improvements, there's, no projects, Bobby, you want to describe those?
The thing right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, the O'Reilly's phase, that's, that's the, that new line that we're wanting to bring up 60, from 62 up Old Park.
Okay,
That's because right now it goes underneath that liquor store.
I remember. Get rid of the
so that's.
line under the liquor
that's
store. I
kind of
remember
a-
that one.
That's an anomaly from the old route.
Yes,
Old
yeah.
Park Boulevard.
It used to go that way. I remember.
Before there was a purchase parkway.
I
That's all
remember.
it is. So now when Transportation Cabinet does that, they actually have a utility relocation.
Yeah.
Uh,
The road sat there for quite a while before a lot of in there,
Department
reconstruction.
division, whatever you call it. So when they move roads around, now they take care of that. So we got that anomaly there. And this is finally coming home to roost.
Mhm.
The 210 water main.
That's just, that's the balance for the new one. that we
It
got- we got
is.
planned.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
And then obviously the berm, that's.
Yeah.
For that, 'cause. And then that LWD cutoff, that's a biggie.
It's a big project.
It is.
Yeah.
We
Is
will
that-
have to
is
get
that
funding
the
for.
Pipe that supplies TVA.
No.
Is that?
This is the
not?
one that goes down Point Cutoff Road,
Okay,
in between Industrial Parkway and Riversville Highway.
okay, okay.
it's increasing that water main from
It's a 6-inch right now.
6 inch, we're taking it
Yeah,
to
right.
10 inch to get
Primarily good.
more flow all the way around
Okay,
to the plants. To be
So-
that,
When
so
we had one of the industrial customers really gonna significantly increase their water. We were talking about a big, huge water main
mhm,
replacement. That project got sidelined and put on hold.
Mm.
This is the next step to really helping improve the flow out there.
yeah,
So improving infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
right.
It really helps your hydraulic situation to get that tie in to much larger size. So
Awesome.
there's nobody lives on that road. It's pretty straightforward. It just happens to be pretty long.
Just
mhm.
link this money.
And corrosive.
So we've got the.
And we've
line.
had several breaks on that.
Yeah, and that's the
on
one
that
that's
line,
taking that
so.
certain type of, coating on it. Because of all the chemical stuff or whatever.
Yeah,
We've had quite, like he said, we've had quite a few breaks on this. thing.
yeah.
So is this water that comes from our wells that goes out to
Yeah,
the
this
plants?
this is treated water.
And we're
Yeah,
just
it's treated
basically
water.
tanking a 6-inch, you're gonna make it into a 10. Awesome.
We've been having maintenance concerns with that line and we need to increase the size.
And will, I mean, does that create capacity that could be, if a plan came in and said, we need more water, we're ready to go?
Yeah.
I love it. I'm always for those projects.
It really is targeted at allowing the plant to have more reliable line pressure.
Sewer expenditures is
Should be the last.
on 721, which is, yeah, it's the last page.
Bitter end.
Yeah, I see that our employees number going up just a little bit there, isn't it? Now that you're fully.
Yeah.
Full capacity.
Yeah, because we got 40 staff, I think, in December. So,
Glad to hear.
Sewer I, we've got 50,000 in the budget. We've got we've had this in a couple of years now, a new updated sampler for
Yeah.
taking samples, which would give us more accurate samples, give us safer sample taking and so forth, 10,000 in there. Try to get that done this year. And then we have talked about that we've got aerators that are all
Yeah.
needing repair or
or replaced.
replaced. So we budgeted 45,000 to either repair or buy a new one, or something to get an aerator in those lagoons, providing more air and oxygen in there, to help the sampling there, flow metering. 50,000. And, that's 6,000 part of that other one. That's part of the mule. Yeah,
We just, that's all.
That'd be 30%, yeah.
yeah. And
We're
then,
70 water, 30. So
and another half-ton pickup truck. We
Y'all gonna share that, putting it between the water and sewer.
And mainly, it's,
I thought
that's
that-
why it's mainly for the water.
Yeah.
That's the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
The sewer gets used in the bed and the water department gets to use the cab.
There you go.
Yeah.
And city council's gonna approve running it on the streets.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, side by side.
We're gonna get. turn
make
signals.
sure you get turn signals, that's correct, all that stuff. And get it licensed and the whole bit.
It's gonna be, get a big flashing light.
Oh,
And then the land improvements is the cost of the halo replacement is not really halos now, it's a whole new liner in
Yeah,
those
it's
two
the top one
cells.
that was the
Yeah,
line replacement.
right.
which I did put that amount in as a project with the ARPA money, so that is gonna be paid with that. But then we added 75,000 because of the cleanup cost that we thought would be incurred with that project.
We have a plan of all the sludge is going to be placed in a proper place, we're not bagging anything.
It'll be treated with lime and hauled to
That's where it needs to
the
go.
land for disposal. All right. Yeah, I lost it. All right, at the city council meeting, one of the councilmen, and that'll take the pressure off of Danae,
Mhm.
brought up the rate study that we had done a few years back, and I went back and dug through my records, and it was a whole lot further back than I thought it was. It turns out that it was done in 23.
Is this where we had the gentleman come in and,
Mhm.
Yes.
well, the rate study was done in relation to building, or no, it wasn't, it was just a rate study in general, but he,
To see whether or not that our revenues coming in would sustain us and help us to operate independent of
hang on just a minute here,
any tax money.
she's got something that's gone wrong.
I hate it when they do that to you. So I went back and pulled my numbers out and looked at it, and at that time in October of 23, you all may recall, I didn't, but he did, that we needed about additional revenue of 354,000 or 17.81% above the current water revenue and additional. And then the sewer revenues, we needed another 497,000 or 81.86% amount of revenue to sustain the cost of the sewers. And then he gave us some reports on various options. And at the time, I know we talked about various things, but he gave us in that report. And so council asked that we go back maybe and revisit that again and either bring it up to date or see where we stand in comparison to where we were back in those particular times. Relative to where we are with the water and sewer and the rates that we're now getting.
One question, as I still, I remember the meetings well, but I'm cloudy about, was the context also that we were preparing to build a new water plant? So when he suggests those numbers, was that in anticipation that we need to, build a new plant? Did it have anything to do with it? It may not have.
I don't think
Okay,
it was in the idea of how we would raise the money to build the new plant, Bill. If
Okay,
that's what
like
you're
it's a
talking
separate
about,
issue.
I think it
so
was.
he's just saying to maintain what we have, to sustain it,
Yeah,
we would really need to not quite double our rates, but
because we asked him
Almost.
to look at the rates in around us, where the people were rate wise and where we stood in relationship to those rates. And then in order to self-sustain ourselves, what we would need to do, which was the increase in those numbers. And then question I think came up about, well, if you don't want, if this, whether the city wanted to put tax dollars in there, how they might mold those tax dollars in with the revenue that we're getting from the water if we didn't want to impact lower income people. There were studies that he has in there on that too. Since that was brought up at city council, I'm not sure exactly how we want to proceed with that, whether we want to try to do something ourselves, taking these numbers and building on them, or do we want to, maybe he's still available and would come back down and
Yeah, I
work with
know.
us and update it. I don't know what.
There's still an engagement portion left with me. He presented this to us and we really didn't proceed past that. And we had quite a bit of conversation talking about what we recommend, how we want to think about increasing the price of water. And we've got the CPI index that we do, and it takes place. When does it
Takes
usually
place in
adjust?
January the
January.
1st, it adjusts, so we would have had from this date, we would have had one in January of 24. And we would have had one in January of 25, and they would have been probably 6-7%,
Probably.
yeah, something like that,
Together.
yeah.
I'd have to look at them, I'm sorry.
Increases in rates.
and remind me, I think I've asked this last meeting. As long as there's inflation, then we're raising rates. And if there's no inflation, if it's, stagflation, whatever goes down, deflation, we don't change rates. Is that correct? Is that the policy?
It's not like, this is an inflation rate that's built in like for the operation of a business, so it doesn't always follow what we would hear for a home, for your home.
Mhm.
They're not the same rates.
I say that again.
I said, these are not the same rates. It's a consumer
Price index.
price index.
No, it's
This
not.
is a different index,
It
right?
is based on sewer and water
Right.
and trash
Right.
services,
Right.
so it is focused on sewer and water.
Right.
So it's a product of the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay, and they calculate a consumer price index,
Yeah,
and it's a particular one. It's a particular series.
Mhm.
So it pulls out the things that it takes to make the group of products that they identify. And this is what the projected increase in those goods and services for those industries, what it would amount to. So there is a product in the statute that we follow a particular CPI index. Okay.
Yep.
So we do that by ordinance automatically. And we've been doing that for quite a while.
Mhm.
Yeah, a good while.
well, we followed one and then we changed it here in the last 5 years, right?
No,
Oh, we didn't follow one at all.
Well, it didn't used to be the trash one. We did change.
did we? Oh, that's right,
which
yeah, I
one
do remember
you
that.
suggested
Yeah, I
that
did,
we
yeah.
change it, and we did.
We were using
then.
the straight CPI.
Huh?
I think we
I
were,
think-
I think
yeah.
we were using just plain old.
I'd
consumer
have to look
price.
back, but yes, it
So
was. a
you're
different
saying
one.
we're now following the one that monitors services like we're providing or close to.
Right, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that now. I forgot about that. My mind's.
I think one of this last one was about 3%, wasn't it? Around
year?
3 or,
This year,
yeah,
I think you're right.
and I
I'd
think
have
the
to go
one
look at it.
before that
Was it
was
3?
5.
I think it was 5.
I think it was
No,
about 5%.
And last year was more.
And did he like recommend if we wanted to try to get closer to this, that we stagger it, kind of maybe suspend that and maybe raise them?
No, I don't know that
I
he
don't think he ever
recommended
said-
suspending what we were doing because he thought what we
He
were
thought what we were
doing
doing was great.
was great.
Okay,
From that standpoint, but
Yeah.
we would then, in addition to that,
right.
we would raise the rates at a staggered rate or somewhat rate to, we wouldn't hit people with a 17.8% increase
Right.
immediately. And he gave us some options on how we could do that. And whether or not, we would ask the city council to give us some tax dollar influx into that, or whether we would want to operate strictly independent on our own cash flow. And there has been monies over the years that the city has influxed into us to help with certain projects in particular.
It's not simple. Yeah, you got that unique option in this city. And then things like grants, you've had some major events, COVID and different kinds of things, and that blew in, this grant money here. We got $1 million in grant money, on here. And that's beyond the loans we've taken, right? Grant money. So
Yeah, the grant money. So if you look at the
It's not us.
methodology, and what was it, Bobby Miller? He's basically waiting at the ready for us to give him more detail to do this. Although we've had this is the second budget since he did that. Right.
Yeah.
So there's his name, Robert K. Miller. He talks in this document about what some people do to deal with depreciation because you're gonna count on grant funds that flow to help make that up and what you do. And then we all recognize, I think this group recognizes that users should pay for what they use. There's also a balance to be stricken for making our community attractive and having rates and striking the balance between 100% of the people who are under private entity and recognizing that we do have a city here that can and should help to some degree. So it's this group, an advisory committee, along with the city council, trying to figure out how we're going to fight that. And just to come in and say, hey, I'm going to suddenly do an evaluation as if this were a standalone business, and I'm going to do this, that, and that. That's not the way we need to go. But which way should we go? So we need to take another slot at this. And basically, we had a council member ask for proposals for regular. You look at the chief. We're out of a total revenue of 4.8 million. We're running 0.6 million in the hole, even after neglecting depreciation. So what is the wise thing? I mean, basically every council member saying, hey, this is something we adjusted. How many years has it been since we adjusted the trash pickup? Do you remember that number? Do you remember the number?
Was it in the 80? I mean, yeah, it was like 20 something years.
Yeah.
20-something years since we had adjusted that rate. And then you look at the cost of operating the trucks twice a week,
Yeah,
fuel, all that stuff. And so we did a minor movement up. I forget, what was it? $1.50, which is symbolic at best. But it is a show that we got to do something. So we can't, these things have to be addressed. It is hard for elected officials to really take a look at our constituents and say, hey, we're going to pass it all straight on. I mean, it's just one of these things. We are not a private company. So what makes sense for managing growth? And city council is not experts in water. they're looking for recommendations out of this group of people. And I don't know, I'm open to suggestions, Dan's open to suggestions. I hope that's my.
Well, is this our typical budget, 600,000 a year? Or we've been short that, and yeah, I just don't remember. Every fiscal year, are we coming up that kind of short?
Well, maybe
Well,
not that much.
maybe not that much, and we've also been able to pick up on a lot of our projects that we've done. We picked up grant money.
The grant money's really helped the last couple of years.
We have picked up very little, but some growth in revenue, and got a potential growth coming in now with the Marshall Yards project coming in, because that will generate some more money there. There's a couple of other projects on that can maybe increase the water and the sewer usage a little bit, but
Did we see any gains from our waiver reading meters being more accurate? Was that
I think we showed some
we
increase
changed
there.
to a digital, more updated program in the last 3 years?
Where they may be slipping a little bit now, I don't know for sure.
And we added a $5 a month thing on the
We
meter.
did add that flat rate.
Still collecting that $5 a month. I don't know what percentage that figures on the mandatory spending. And there were some issues that I think that Tim brought up that we probably could go back and revisit too, like if we have meters that people shut off for a portion of
Oh, yeah.
the year, then they're not charged.
Our rate structure, your point, I think,
Right.
because our rate structure is not just kilogallons used.
Right.
Okay. 100 gallons.
Yeah, so if we're maintaining that,
Yes,
that meter,
right.
whether they're using it or not, it should be a charge to it, because we're still maintaining it. And, you
Are
know.
you talking
so-
about snowbirds or people are going living somewhere
Well,
else for a while?
you know, people may use their water their lawn, you know, and then.
Well, it's, I mean, myself, I
They
just,
don't-
I shut my
Right,
watering system off during the winter. That
Right.
meter off and it sits there and I don't pay anything on it until summer, and I turn it back on. To
right,
Okay.
either water the yard or do whatever.
I got you.
yeah,
And then we've got the snowbirds who go south.
Yeah.
They'll, some of them will turn off their meters because they don't
They
want
do.
to.
Mhm.
The
Something they
JP
don't know.
Lyles incident that where the water froze and busted and destroyed the basement in that house. So,
yeah.
um,
So it's just a suggestion that we look at some of those things as well. So we take a holistic look at it rather than our consultant
Right.
was pretty jaded in one particular thought process. So they're, you know, so I think you gotta look at the whole thing.
So we gotta, you're gonna ask for rate increase, you gotta make sure operational efficiencies were.
That's exactly right.
The policies in place for pay to play, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and we need some adjustments on that.
Yeah,
The meters is just one example of that. I'm trying to think of what might be another example of a service that we provide. There's some more I can think of right now, of course, when I need to.
well, I just think that water and sewer are fundamental to quality of life. More so than parks or trails or anything else. I'm not against them.
Mhm.
And I'm proud of what the city has done, make no mistake, I'm glad for what the city's done, but the consultant just took the hard line that you should never spend tax money on your sewer waters infrastructure.
Well, the city council has,
You know, and I know, no, I just don't agree with that.
the city council has obviously not agreed with it either.
I'm
But that
not,
would be, you're saying if we raised it 80%, then we can pay for more things ourselves, more maintaining. And some of the big
I'd
projects.
say there's probably a rate increase that's more reasonable than if you put a 17% increase in your water based on how we figure that. If our sewer runs roughly 2.5 times that, then you automatically put a 2.5 times 17% increase in your sewer.
Right.
So I'm just saying that I think a lot of residents of Calvert, if you hit them with what he had asked us to do, even if you stage it, you're gonna have a lot of problems, and you're raising my water bill and my sewer bill.
Yeah.
But you don't charge anybody to use your parks. You don't charge anybody to use your bike trails, and you're spending that money that I'm paying taxes for. That's where you, I mean, you're getting it from the taxpayer.
Right.
And so if the
Which
money
is
comes
a
from the
fundraising
taxpayer, I think the taxpayers got as much infrastructure of water and sewer as they got it to go to anything else in the city. But I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I think there's
How
a
are you
way,
gonna pay for
I
it?
think there's a way to do it all.
Okay.
It's a philosophy.
The city had a separate, the water stuff that's separate from the budget. Has it been
Correct.
forever? Okay.
I mean,
And so the city itself as an entity doesn't supply any
Yeah.
budget funding or anything
Yeah.
towards the water at all.
We
We
were,
helped in the past.
we
with
were a
certain things.
freestanding board, that we're no longer a freestanding board.
Oh, okay.
We're an advisory group. That was changed.
And the city did, during that time, we were freestanding. There were
Loans.
occasions when the city would supplement. We, I think it was the water tower. I'm not exactly
Yes,
sure what
they
it
did. They
was.
paid for
They
that.
paid $100,000 a year
They made the principal payments all way for
For
all
the
of
water
that.
tank,
for
For
the
all.
water tank,
Mhm.
million gallon storage
Yeah.
tank.
Mm.
the big tank. So they would supplement some of those projects, but the ongoing day-to-day expenses, we try to take care of all that ourselves.
Yeah, I just assumed it always was part of the city's expenses to help with that, but of course, I'm learning a lot of new stuff.
Back during Don Heiss's days, it was an independent board. And still reported to the city, but didn't necessarily report to the city council.
Gotcha.
Well, I think one thing you gotta think about is, you know, what this guy suggested, we gotta weigh it and think about it. If we keep doing it as we do it, are things gonna get better, worse, or are we gonna maintain them so that they are as reliable as they are? You know, we have incidents every now and then where something breaks down and Bobby and his crew and whoever they bring in, they take care of it. Are there more of those? Do we want less of those than we have? What is the, you know, what is the ramifications if we just kind of sit on this stuff and not move? We are doing, like you say, we're incrementally. You see PI lately, we're going up, but we're not there.
Well,
Why does he conclude? we need to
anything
kind of-
that is, anything like the water and the sewer system is gonna deteriorate
Yeah,
and you're gonna have to replace it.
100-year-old pipe's not as good as a 5-year-old pipe,
No, I mean, the
right?
pipes that we've got now are, we're beginning to see cracks and breaks in them because the pipe that he fixed over there was the main line that came from the well field to the plant. It had deteriorated to a certain
Right.
extent, and I never thought of it, but Tim, when you got X amount of water running through a metal pipe, it's gonna
Yeah.
get thinner and thinner and thinner.
Yeah, where's,
It wears, and so
So-
you gotta replace it. So yes, you're gonna have continuous repairs and maintenance, and we're now upgrading the water plant itself because of, I don't know how many years that plant's been there operating, but it's now. They have,
one thing Roger, one of our past managers, said was, I'd love to be proactive, but I find myself reactive. And so one thing I'm thinking about is if we push for a higher budget, what would that look like? Where we're more proactive. You need to dream a little bit. If you had a bigger budget, what could you do to help avoid that happening? You would systematically start replacing things,
That'd
right?
be a problem, that'd be a good problem to have, so.
You know, Bob, I mean, I just think that you gotta have growth as part of that plan too. You got, you know, I was in the hospital industry back when the government changed the way they paid hospital. And the community hospitals that just cut costs closed.
Right.
Those who cut some costs, but also look to expand their base, survived. And so, Dan's brought up, we got places we're not serving in sewer. We could be more aggressive with our water service. These projects, Kentucky Dam is one, that Marshall Yards is another one. There may be other restaurants out there. So, I mean, I think there are things that are gonna help us out there also as they come in. And I think we need to always be open and proactive and expanding our base.
Well, that's what I'm saying
Because
here.
what makes
When
it
you
hard,
say
got a
that,
couple
that calls for
thousands.
more infrastructure sometimes
Well-
and more infrastructure to maintain.
I know,
Calls for
right.
maybe
yeah.
more people, more,
Yeah, but there's no grants to maintain.
yeah, I agree.
There's grants to expand service. There's grants to maybe become more greener. So you just got to think of the whole gamut. All of it comes together, and in all of that, it's somewhere. I'm sure there's going to be a water rate increase, but it's a part and not the solution within itself.
Well, this situation, you're gonna take a 6-inch line to make it a 10-inch line. I mean, you're creating capacity for more potential growth.
Yeah,
So things like that, thinking in that direction of where can we do that in places
right.
that will make it more
And,
appealing.
Tim also brought up, we've got a schedule of the more water you use, the cheaper you get it. And it comes to a point, if you use enough to where it costs us more to produce it, then you're paying for it. So, that's something to look at. And that's mostly our industries, which have been great. And I would argue that the quality improvement to the quality of life that our industry has brought far exceeds any cancer concerns. Yeah, more people 100 years ago died from lack of quality of life than they did cancer. But there could be some things in there to look at, not just the residential side of it, but look at that other side of it, particularly.
Well, what did we say our revenue is from plants versus?
About
citizen?
75%.
Yeah, so that's the other aspect of this
Yeah.
that we gotta keep thinking about is how to support
Keep
that
it-
growth and that
Right.
revenue resource.
Gene, we could follow up with Greg on that PDA plan out there.
Okay.
I'm not seeing anything back now.
Is this, you want to relook at this study within this meeting? Is this something that we need, we've done workshops before? And, think about what you're proposing here, how you'd want to go about it. It could be a focus of one of these monthly meetings if you wanted it to be, but
Well,
it could be.
You put, like Gene said, we've still got some room to work with Mr. Miller here. We can send him updated financial statements and budgeted statements and let him revisit his numbers.
Okay.
And come back with a.
One other thing I
Similar
would say
report.
is dig out that email and forward it to Bruce so he can have did he give it to us digitally?
Yeah, we've got that.
Yeah, make sure Bruce gets.
Did you not get a copy of that?
We probably. have-
No reason to.
If the
Did we
board-
get a copy of?
Oh, the other one, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Miller.
Yeah, the old one, yeah.
Probably more scheduled than I gave you.
Yeah, so we may have an actual copy of his presentation he made at PowerPoint. I'm not sure we did or not. He did a report. He may just did slides off of that report. So I mean, it's clear we have to strike a balance. We need to take a look at some policies. We need to, we've got some potential substantial growth. I don't know if we really sit down and project it.
Number,
Growth.
right,
And we got some things that are still project under development that really aren't totally committed, but we can project some volume changes on those.
what do you see the projects that we have, the biggest projects? Are they maintaining? Or are they building capacity? Are they doing both? Or are they
Well-
solving a problem?
People talk about the age of the water plant. That's fine, but the water plants isn't a unit. It's not a Gillette water plant. You constantly work on it. So
Right,
because of the grants that we've been able to get for probably the first time. And I have to be cautious. One of my big things that I'm working on this year, just shy of the New Year's resolution for me, is how do you know what you don't know?
Good luck.
How
with
do you
that.
know what you don't know? First thing you gotta do is don't make assumptions of something of what's done or not done before you ever got involved. But the booster pumps, the VFD combinations, the increase in the lines, it really gotten to a design point that I understand allow us to operate the system at volumes and balancing that it was originally designed for. We've had some pretty solid hits and they've not come cheap. We've improved our HMI, we've improved our alarming systems. We're not, we detected a water main break on the inlet side within minutes, which might have prior locked literally gone a shift or two. It might have been a matter of hours before you ever detected that something's wrong.
Why? Why did we find it so
Because
fast?
we improved the HMI, the
HMI is
the
what?
human machine interface, the
Okay.
control system software, how we interpret the computer screen, what the numbers are on the flow meter.
We got the data.
So the
quick.
humans can interface with the
Awesome.
status of the plant a lot more efficiently than they used to.
So did you get a red flag or something?
Yeah, we saw when you see a drop in our intake,
You
we knew something.
got to notice.
So those are efficiencies, and then, with VFDs, you can get some grants for VFDs, but it's sustainability, it's producing the same amount of volume with less power consumption. We've got, hopefully, the commercial development out around exit 27 is gonna, expand into some water
Right.
usage there, and there's
Right.
gonna be, and those are serviced by sewers.
Wonderful.
Okay, so that's good news and
Our
bad
sewer
news. The
system.
good news is that you charge for sewer, it helps defray those costs. The bad news is we're gonna need a smidge of infrastructure investment to get there.
Yeah.
And depending on how that all unfolds.
Out there or back?
Well, no, it'll be
In
distribution
between.
there. We think our plan, especially since we've, improved our headwaters ability to take instantaneous flows in, along with our improvements in the lagoon area to increase the volume of the lagoon back to its original design points. And we
Right.
think we know that we have enough capacity to treat the water that will be wastewaters that will be generated by some of the projected projects that we have.
Okay.
Right.
Even to the point that we can do, we're entertaining a substantial increase in that by eventually, and I don't know, we're on a 2-year window or less than that in seeing the feasibility of a win-win with us and Kentucky Dam Village State Park.
Yeah.
So that's a rather big, and that's speaking to what
Remember that?
Steve said earlier. So that's coming. So, but I don't know that we've really projected out 2 and 3 years. Strategic plan, businesses
Right.
have strategic plan,
That's right.
and municipal governments don't do as good a job at that as you do in the industrial or commercial segment. So, maybe we need to look more at the 3-year plan and 5-year plan out. And we do that. We look at the life of our infrastructure. We really haven't projected our rates and revenues out that far like a business would, business-wise. And we probably need to do some of that. And we're gonna really recommend a thoughtful process toward some rate adjustment. I think that's called for. So it's a double-edged sword. We got to get the cost of production and make sure we're staying efficient. Okay. We have to make sure we reinvest in our infrastructure to make sure we don't have a major issue. One of the things that would come up, for instance, we're gonna do a media chain in the filter house at $80,000 this year. We haven't done it in a while. If you pull out the design book of that filter and you say, boy, y'all really put that off. And by that design basis, you're darn right we did, because we don't pull water out of the same sources we used to.
Mhm.
So the purity in our waters that we use are a lot cleaner, so you don't have to service that filter base as much. And that took a lot of infrastructure, a lot of miles of pipe to get that new well field in, and it's producing a lot better quality water, so that filter can last a lot of time. So this thing is constant project. I don't know, I think really biting the bullet in the last decade on fixing a lot of the sewer infrastructure, that was funded by taxpayers.
Mhm.
The sewer infrastructure is nothing sexy about relocating the sewer under the street from the old system of the backside. That is a lot of slog work
Mhm.
and a lot of just cost. And that's been funded out of the city budget. And to your point, the city council agrees with you that they're willing to fund that. They don't approve well, we can't do this, we're gonna have to double this. That's not driven, but we're to the point now where we're running a negative $0.6 million on a 4.6. It's time to adjust on this. So they don't know. So
Wait a
we
minute, that
got
was 600,000
600.
instead of 6 million.
0.6 million.
0.6. Yep, we make sure that was,
And the top line was
Heard correctly.
4.6 and
Yeah.
the negative is 0.6.
yes.
Now, if you're dealing in those two digits and that figure, but, so they're just looking for recommendation and how we can, best approach this thing instead of just trundling along at a CPI adjustment and hoping that it does. And so the city council has to approve everything that we have as a rate structure. That's how it works here. So we're gonna change the fees associated with idle, meters, our policies of just adjusting this or adjusting that. We need to look at the whole set of them and take a look at the cost per 1,000 gallons, and it's not a straightforward across the board percentage. It affects the whole thing, even the higher volume. And Calvert City, listen, we've got to have a high reliability factor
Yes, we do.
we've got a high factor for reliability because everyday life. And rural water districts do that, but we've got to have the high reliability and the high volume as well. Because we got world-class plants that depend on us to be a key supplier.
That's right.
So that's very important on the residential side. I don't want my water to be out for a minute, and neither does anyone else. But on the other side, when you have an outage of a few hundred gallons on influx, you better get on that because you may have an industrial client have an instantaneous load
Right.
that you got to be able to be there for them as well. So it's a different package of concerns that this community faces.
Right.
So when that CPI rate goes up, that's for industrial customers as well as citizens. Same thing, okay,
Yeah.
Everybody,
all right,
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure, see if we're treating everybody the same.
we are.
Thank you.
So there's grants available.
Events.
And we take advantage of them. And so we've had a very plentiful grant environment since COVID. And that, I think most people would agree, is gonna get a little tighter moving forward. But we've
Yes,
got to
it
be
is.
very, and not that we're wasting a dime of grant money, but we've got to make sure that we're prepared for that.
Mhm.
One other thing that I would, when we have this bigger discussion, is our debt ratio. You know, what we're paying for loans, given what our revenue is and stuff like
Part of the
that.
business plan, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, is it been consistent? Is it trended up? Is it considered reasonable, for a business? We're not a business, but for an organization.
Well,
like that.
from somebody that was the interest rates we're paying is, I'd love to have all of those rates.
Yeah, those are pretty, those are nice.
One.
Yeah.
I do know KIA looks at all that before they'll allow us to have.
Okay, so we get checked. Okay.
Yeah, we do get checked.
Yeah, so I mean, the borrowing the money has not been that costly. It's not maybe the best way to operate it, but sometimes you have to, so. Okay. So y'all want me to get a hold of Mr. Miller and talk to him about maybe what we need to send him and help him to bring us up to date, or do we need to have another discussion before we do that? Cause I need to report back to city council by next meeting on what we've done relative to this, I would think, since Ralph brought it up, so.
Well, how about homework that we all read it again? And talk about it at the next meeting?
Yeah.
And- And also go ahead and call Miller and start giving him, let's do both. Give him the numbers. Say we want an update.
Catch up on our inventory, Bobby. I mean, I will do a good shout out. I was up at the parts place, went by Food Giant. I saw that water running down that road. And I thought, that water shouldn't be running down that road. So I get home, I call Bobby. And I think you might have,
You only got-
so you might have a leak out there. And he said, yeah, he said, we're here. He was, by the time I drive from Food Giant to my house, Bobby and the guys are on it. So thank
We were already
you.
there.
That was.
Did you see it spewing up about the top of the building?
I just saw it draining down the road and I
Okay.
thought, what, that shouldn't have drained down the road like that, because there's no reason we didn't rain or anything, so.
I was at Memorial Park, the boys were practicing, I was walking, and I could hear a waterfall, and I thought, I've never heard a waterfall.
So
Yeah.
kudos on y'all getting right on top of that.
Yeah. Well, we had to, if not, it's gonna be ugly.
And I tell you why I did that. When I lived in Benton. And I got off work or something, and I come by off of the old Parkway, it's now 69. And I saw water running out there. A lot of, and it was dry, but it didn't dawn on me what it was. And so then I called up to the water people because they had some kind of emergency or something, was shutting water off and stuff. And I called them to see what was going on. And ladies telling me, I said, well, I just got off out there and said, there's water running out there under that bridge where you exit off of? She said, there's what? So, sometimes people pass by and see
Yeah.
stuff and they don't say anything. And they didn't know where the leak was at. So, now I do
A lot of
talk.
times until we find ours, people calling.
Yeah, yeah.
How long it takes to find the one down by Oak Park? On the trailer property that blew out. It took a while to find that one.
Hold on, where at?
On Oak Park Boulevard.
I don't know if he was here.
You weren't. I don't
You
know.
talking about
Emmanuel
the one
was-
that Silas and Tim walked
Yep.
and looked and looked.
Oh, I
at
know what
that
you're
was
talking
3
about.
or
Yeah, 'cause
4
I
or
remember
5 days.
covering it up.
Yeah.
That was before, I really can't-
Silas and Tim,
Tim
and they
finally
said they
saw
learned a
something.
lot
They were
from that
looking for a
incident.
couple days for that one.
Yeah, they said they learned a lot.
I still look down there to see if anything else is.
I still, from what I thought, what Bobby
Get a
showed
lot
how
of
that
that.
inlet water leak, I can't believe anybody saw it. That was a phenomenal job. I can't say enough positive things about that response. That's crazy. That's nuts.
All right.
Oh,
Gentlemen,
somebody
Bill?
apology. I found my copy. I apologize.
I'm good,
So I
sir.
must have got it mixed up with some older papers.
Yeah.
I'm
Bill, you
good
got
now,
anything?
apologize.
Good?
I think I've had plenty.
Bruce, you got anything tonight? Anything you
My
wanna
wife
know
could tell
about?
you
You
something
hadn't
about
asked?
me not seeing something or not finding it.
We all were talking about being proactive and making things better. I mean, as the new kid on the block with 2 whole meetings under my belt now. I mean, I feel like you are. I mean, you're doing the preventive maintenance and the upgrades and you're expanding. So I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing. I didn't expect to see that. So impressive.
I have to say, when I first came over, that was one of my first things that I said. I think I even said it to Jane and stuff, is I want to be more proactive.
Yeah.
Instead of reacting like we always have been in the past.
Yeah.
Cause that makes for
I agree. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that was one of my key terms. Proactive.
Steve, you okay? Good.
I'm fine. I compliment the mayor on that he's attended every meeting, that we've had that I know
Well, I
of.
miss a few.
That makes it makes a difference, man. And,
Well,
thank you.
And I will remind you that we're operating without a water manager.
mhm.
Yeah.
And Bobby's kind of out there on his own there, and so he's got to ask for help when he needs it. And we've been arguing with city administration and me. And so that's we'd interviewed a few,
Mhm.
and that's a pretty big expense to do. And so really, it's up to the mayor's position to figure out how to integrate the need
Mhm.
and the city government.
Mhm.
And so, as we progress over the next, so. Better. That's a lot to do.
You figure how many meters if we charge a meter base and not using. I don't even mind me out there.
Linda's staff, we went in and went on a brainstorming session of things on, cause they deal with cutoffs. They deal with turn-ons, they deal with special requests. They've got a pretty good shopping basket of things that need attention, cause they see it, and they're the ones that process the policy things get processed by them.
Right.
And given to Bobby. Now, that'd be a strong source of identification of those kinds of things that need attention and kind of maybe need modernization and look at it.
Right.
Yeah, Linda and her staff do a good job of supporting us.
Yeah.
And part of what we do. Along with
They've got a lot of
responsibilities.
the transfer to the new system for operating city government they are gonna be all over the processes for utilities, all of the processes for taxes, all of the processes for ledger. And they got a lot of work, and so they gotta build that all up in this new software. And it's, what's the date on it?
They have
April 10th?
dashboard, because I was looking at some things and it was
Good.
talking about it. So I know you've kept asking me and I looked and I meant to go in and watch it, but I just haven't yet, but I will. We had a meeting. It's gonna be more like the first of next year,
On the software.
not as
being
soon as we,
Transitioned.
yeah.
I mean, there's some glitches.
Oh,
Not
Bill.
totally, no glitches yet. Well,
Maybe not with their software. I think it's been with, staff
Yes,
changes.
staff change. I understand.
Staff changes.
Project leadership at the vendor can set you back on the project.
No kidding.
No. All right. Have a motion.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. Get a second?
Jump in there, Bruce.
Second.
Get
Bruce,
you in the
second.
notes, buddy.
All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Nay, thank you for,
Thank you.
okay.
I learn something every time I come.
I didn't ask you if you had any questions.
No, I listen. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I learned a lot. Good job.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
She's there, she's working in the background.
She's lurking.